So moving on, who wants to go first?
I think it's on you today.
Yeah, I feel like it's your turn.
Okay. Well, I'm going to probably put my foot in my mouth today because I feel like I haven't done that well in the last few weeks. So I'm trying to figure out how I want to pose this. So there was a post we made yesterday, as a matter of fact, where it was a mother and the father of the child going back and forth about the video game. Yeah. So I don't necessarily want to get into that post because he was, I feel like he was out of line by the way he talked to the mother and all that stuff. But it goes back to some of the comments that made me want to elaborate. So it's about co-parenting again. I think we discussed this or brought this topic up a couple of times. And so the post was the father reached out to the mother and said, "Hey, my son told me you took his video game away. And he bought the video game so he can play with his son and have time with him." And she's like, "Well, he didn't want to share with his brother, so I took it from him. And in this house, you learn how to share." And his comments, well, his response, I guess, is really irrelevant. But the whole point was he bought something for his child to do something. The mother did not like that the son did not want to share, and so she took it away from him and said, "In this house, these are the rules." My question to you is, how do you feel about some of these comments where the default answer was, if he has a problem with it, then he should take the child. If he has a problem with it, then he should take the child, and problem solved.
Yeah, that's a go-to. But that response comes with the assumption that he doesn't want to take the child, or he never really tried to take the child. So before you make a response like that, that's something that you would need to know in order to effectively make a statement like that. I'm gonna start right there and just see what Razi got to say, because like, what if he is trying to get his child? What if he did try to get his child? Now what? Like, we know the court system favors, for the most part, women in keeping the kids.
Yeah, okay. And even if he's trying to get the child, let's say he did, and that was impossible, or it was impossible, for that to be the immediate response, does that say something, or are you said your piece?
I said my piece. My piece. Yeah.
Razi, what do you have?
To what you were saying, Ferg, I think it's a go-to because it's a cop-out, right? It's no different than go back to Africa. If you don't like it, leave. If you don't, it's a way to kind of push back at the person and try to shut them down, but at the same time, it's no essence or no substance behind it. Like Byron said, you don't know if that guy has fought for it. You don't know if that guy said, "Send me my son. I will take my son," or whatever. So I think that response is bull in itself. For the most part, you don't, like Byron said, you don't know what's been going on between them to know if he wants them or not. But on top of that, even if he wasn't going to be the custodial parent, he's still a co-parent. Like, he still has somewhat of a say in it. Now, can he be rude and disrespectful to the primary custodian? No, he doesn't need to. Like you even mentioned, like, he didn't need to say some of the things that he said or whatever. But when you start talking through, "Hey, I'm buying this thing for this one kid in the house," like, you can't expect a parent to let one kid have a whole bunch of stuff and then another kid not have inside of that household. Like, that's not going to happen. Right. So, I mean, he had unfair expectations of letting that boy play with that PlayStation or that, I think it was a PlayStation, right? Or Xbox or whatever, played that video game without sharing with his kids or with his brothers.
Okay. Well,
So
you got something, Buff?
I was gonna say just two things real quick. One, you want to try to always be consistent with your arguments, right? And you brought up this post but several months ago, we made a post where the father, I think he had like I think he had a 1-bedroom apartment, and the custodial parent, the mother, was like, I'm not bringing him over there. And the father was like, I let him sleep in my bed, or I think he let him sleep on the couch. I don't know what it was, but these same people were defending that woman too. So you telling me the custodial parent has say so in her house and the father's house? Like, it can't be both ways. You know what I mean? And then the second thing is, and this will probably be a topic for a different show, but I think the whole sharing thing, like, as adults, well, I know I don't share. Not that often. so sharing is overrated.
So you guys have definitely made my argument or my thought process a lot easier. So I'll address, well, since we just brought that up, Razi, about maybe 3-4 episodes ago, you kind of mentioned that you don't really force your kids to share. You're not teaching them that, because I think sometimes there are downfalls to, and you made me think about this, to just teaching them that you just got to share, that you're obligated to share. For what we made a couple assumptions on in just the last few minutes ourselves, that one kid has more than another kid. We don't know that. And if they do, that's a conversation that father and that mother need to have before things come into the household, right? At this point, it's too late. And addressing it as adults and not just reprimanding one or the other. So let me regress and say this. My thoughts on this is not to attack any mothers, fathers, custodial parents, people who are co-parenting and doing things their own, because we don't have all the answers. The reason I brought this up is because I had a similar conversation on another topic with a friend of mine recently, and it was, we so often want others to understand our views on things, where we are the person who has less power, be it sex, the male-female dynamics, race, black and white. We don't want, why don't they get it? Why don't they at least take a second to understand where we're coming from? And like you said, Byron and Razi, they have these cop-out responses. This is the way things have always been, so why would I change? So if this is your initial thought process, well, if he doesn't like it, he should take the child. I don't fault anybody for that being their initial response. But when we open up the dialogue and say, hey, why do you think that is the proper response? Or explain to me deeper why that's the proper response or the only response, rather than, hey, maybe that mother and father need to sit down and have a conversation about, hey, because A, B, C, and D don't have this, it causes conflict in the house. So if you want those things, keeping him at your house, hey, maybe it's a little unfair. Maybe I have to look out for the other kids a little more because he had such a strong father figure in his life. I don't know about the other 3 kids, but those are conversations. It's not the father's job. And I understand the mother has to take care of all 4 of her kids, but it's not his responsibility or the responsibility of that child to make up where others may lack. That's not his duty. If he's doing right by her and that child, then we need to have a deeper conversation, rather than, if you don't like it, then take him. You can't control my household. Is it that I can only be a parent as much as you allow me to be a parent? And then you wonder why, and not an excuse, a lot of men take a step back. I can't fight you on everything. I can't fight you on this. I can't fight you on that. You want me to be present. And when I try to be present, if it doesn't directly align with your thoughts, then I'm wrong. There's a problem. And now there's a battle, rather than, hey, I get it. What can we do moving forward? rather than what me and my household, this is what we do. It's like, I get it, but that's still my son. And that sharing thing, bro, I don't know if we're worse off by just thinking we should share everything. Sometimes it's better to learn that you deserve certain things. You worked hard. We don't know. Maybe he got that game for having all A's. We don't know. Maybe he deserves it. Maybe the other kids are on punishment. We don't know. So it's being able to say, hey, I want to teach you the benefits of sharing. But to enforce or teach people, because we know pretty much all of us were taught to share. Like, I don't think there was many of us say like, you need to share. That doesn't make us any better. A lot of us have resentment because when I get mine, I ain't sharing shit with nobody. You can't wait because you were forced to always share rather than giving that option to say, you know what, this will make a situation better. I want to share with this person. Not saying that's the right answer, but it's like we have to kind of take a second and just question everything we taught. Is it always right? Is there more of a gray area than just sharing is caring?
Yeah, I mean, but as a parent, especially the custodial parent that's there day in, day out with all 4 kids, you have to find that sweet spot and that balance of teaching them to share, making them share sometimes when they don't want to, and letting them actually have ownership of their own things. Like you mentioned that I don't teach my kids that you have to share all the time. I don't teach them that. But at the same time, there are times when I'm like, Sophia, let Oliver play the thing. Let Sophia play the thing. You weren't even thinking about it. I know it's yours, but let her play with it. And so teaching that balance of, okay, when do you share, when you don't? If you're using it and they want to play it, then you might not need to share at that point, because it's like, no, I'm playing it right now. I don't want to share. And it's okay to say that, no, I don't want to share. But at the same time, if it's something that you're not even touching, not thinking about, don't want, and they come and say, hey, can I play with this? So that's the other thing I teach is respecting boundaries, right? That is his thing. You can't just pick it up and go start playing with it. You have to pick it up and say, Ollie, can I play with this? Oliver, you have to ask Sophie, can you play with the thing? And then once that happens, that's where I get into the whole, all right, y'all got to learn how to share. Sophia, why are you saying no to him? And it can't be just, I just don't want him to play it. It's like, you didn't want it. You weren't playing with it. It's not going to hurt you. It's not like, there's a finite times you can play this thing. So why are you telling him no? So that's the teaching them how to share and when to share versus saying you have to share all the time.
And Ferg, you really brought up some stuff too. Posts like these, where you just have like a screenshot of a text message between 2 people, it really tells us more about ourselves than it does the 2 people that are involved. Because like you say, we start, manifesting our own scenario onto them, because on one hand, she could be completely wrong to where the kid is sharing his game, but the one time that he didn't, the other kids ran and told her, and she was like, "Oh, you're not sharing? Let me take the whole game." Mm-hmm. Or the father could be correct that, what I mean? So we just don't know. But I will say this: at the end of the day, it is her house. The game is in there. The TV that he plays it on is in there, and he has to. So she does get the final say.
Yeah,
in that.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, and just even as raising parents, that while you're in my house, is what you're gonna do. Is not always the best course of action. We have to realize that we can also make mistakes. We can also be jaded by our own experiences. This is what we're taught. We a lot of times on the show, we try to undo a lot of the learnings we've had as kids. And my scenario, I'm not taking anybody's side. I'm just saying, hey, we have to question some of our automatic decisions. Yeah. Well, this is my household. We had somebody that was saying, poor Shay, I'll give you this shit. He was being disobedient. Like, she gave this guy a whole nother, we don't know the scenario, but we play this out in our mind. And sometimes we have to take a step back and say, okay, what's the bigger issue? Is there a better way to parent this? And Raz, you're right. Like, there's certain aspects of learning how to share, but we don't know enough. And also, is there a better approach? Hey, let's talk about this. Hey, you bought Rise to that game. He's not sharing with his brothers. Is causing a lot of contention in the house. We need to talk about this. Have you talked to him about sharing? like you said, Buffy could have been that one time he didn't share, and it becomes a problem. We grew up around those kids that if they didn't get their way, they're taking everybody down. Byron doesn't want to share.
Yeah.
Mama, Byron ain't sharing.
Mhm.
Like, we grew up around. We don't know the situation.
Yeah, and most games these days are one-player games, right? It's not like back in the day where we could like really take turns and have 2 players and stuff like that. It's like literally, for me to share this game, I have to walk away and let you play it. Like that is sharing, today.
And it's not a quick game. It's not like Mario where you took turns and it's like, all right, player 1. And even then, that was hell. You got that one person that might be playing Mario. It might take them 45 minutes to die. That wasn't fun to share. And it was just, to me, it's not about the game. It's all about, like you were saying, Byron, questioning ourselves. We got a snippet of what was going on, and we created an entire situation, from the father being disrespectful to the mother being irresponsible, having all these kids out, multiple kids out of wedlock, to the kids being bad, to the son being like, we have created this whole family. Like that, we have a TV show about this family. We have enough information and opinions to make a show about these families, this whole family. So